Okay, for our next topic, we want to talk about rumors that ChatGPT is working on a search product that will rival or could rival Google. Now, of course, we all know Google is the house that search built, and search is one of the most important products and services on the internet. It's an intent fulfillment machine. It's often said that if you can fulfill intent quickly on the internet, you make and print billions and billions of dollars, and no one's done it better than Google. That's Google's beating heart. That's where all their revenue comes from. And so for OpenAI and by extension Microsoft to be building some kind of next generation search product, that would be a direct, let's call it attack or risk or threat for the Google core business, something that Bing has not been able to pull off in days gone by. And so the question becomes, what does this product look like? How might Google respond? And will it make a real dent in Google's business? And might we be moving over from Google search to Bing search or to ChatGPT search or OpenAI search any day soon? It's also worth pointing out there's a startup called Perplexity, which has been building what they think of as an AI-powered search, an alternative, a next-gen search. I've played with a little bit. It hasn't captured my attention yet, but that doesn't mean they're not onto something. But that might be a glimpse at what an OpenAI search might look like, what the future of search might look like. And so what do we think of this, boys? What happens to the future of search? What does it look like? And what does Google do to respond?
I mean, I think that even if OpenAI didn't do anything from an interface standpoint, it's naturally going to take search volume. Like when you open ChatGPT, you're searching, right? And therefore, it's just an alternative, not a perfect substitute, but an alternative way to get information that you might want. If it becomes even more, from a UI standpoint, similar and useful to the way Google is it a threat to like all their business? No, but is it a threat to their market share? Maybe, for sure. If it has better, I mean, the knock on Bing for years has been that the answers are just not as good. And the advertising, people complain about the blue links. We want the blue links. We click on them. A lot of people click on them for a reason because they're relevant. And it hasn't been that case for Bing. And so I do think this notion of a foundation model generally is a threat to Google. And it could be a Perplexity, it could be a Bing, it could be OpenAI. I think all of them are a threat to their dominance.
I mean, look, they're threats. No doubt they're threats. But I actually look at this and I'm long Google. Search is really hard. And nobody has come close to Google on search for a very, very long time. Microsoft put billions of dollars into Bing, tens of billions, I would say, by this point, and they didn't come particularly close. Since ChatGPT was released, and then, there was Bing with ChatGPT and so on, there's been a lot of concern about, everyone's going to Bing it, and then they come back to Google. So search is really hard, and Google has a massive lead. Now, on the other side, AI is really hard. But Google is in the game there. We've talked about that in previous episodes, right? They've been the sleeping giant of AI, but they are a giant just as much as they are in search. And that giant's kind of gotten its wake-up call, I think. And I think adding Google's level of AI to Google search is going to be a much smaller lift than adding a Google level of search to AI. AI does not make search obsolete. We talked briefly, and maybe if we get Ali back on, who's got a bit more of the technical chops, we can talk again about RAG, retrieval augmented generation, which is basically this idea of letting the AI use search to get better answers, right? To reduce hallucinations, to get up-to-date information and so on. Now, that's what Perplexity does. Perplexity is pretty good. But my bet is Google's resources, Google's AI chops, Google's search chops are going to be better than what Perplexity can do in the medium term. There are already, I think, experiments, depending what part of the world you're in and so on, where when you do Google searches, it prioritizes an AI-generated response ahead of the blue links. So I just kind of feel that one of the interesting things about AI so far is that most of the benefits have accrued to the Magnificent Seven. This hasn't been a disruption opportunity yet. And I actually don't see Google being disrupted in search.
I think I mostly agree with you, but here's a few thoughts. Saying search is hard might sound like saying, look, managing horses is really hard in the face of the invention of the automobile. It's kind of like, yeah, managing horses is hard, but no one gives a shit about that in a post-Henry Ford world. And so maybe the problem of search as we know it and the difficulties associated with that are no longer as relevant as they used to be. Maybe. But here's where I'm going to disagree with myself and agree with you. It is easier to add AI to Google search than to add Google search quality to ChatGPT or to Bing. And so I think to the degree that search and search grounding of AI is important, then Google has the advantage. And so Google potentially has the advantage for whatever comes after search. because they have the AI chops, they have the search, and they can do a really good job there. But already I use ChatGPT before Google or after Google fails me, which is increasingly true, to get answers to most of my questions these days. So this is already happening. And I think the future of search is actually agents. I continue to believe that you're going to have one personal agent who knows who you are, who knows your history, who has the personality you like, has the context you need, and is going to be pervasively following you around. It'll be on your device, on your mobile device, on your headphones, in your laptop, probably in your home devices that Apple still needs to create. And you're just going to speak into the ether, and it's going to go do searches for you. It's going to go do transactions for you. It's going to go do work for you. And you're never going to see a search box again in your life, probably 5% of the time. And so whoever owns that agent owns the distribution and owns whatever search engine is underneath, and will own the monetization, because the monetization will not necessarily be ads. It'll be the transactional clip of the ticket as you go around the world executing transactions.
It's a paradigm shift in terms of how users are going to interact with these foundation models. So you don't have to be great at search necessarily in the Google sense. If you wanted the 10 best chiropractors in your area and you type that into both search or Perplexity or OpenAI, it's not clear that Google would necessarily give you a better answer.
Not right now.
Why is the case?
Because the point is, there are two aspects of this, right? There is the technology and the processing capability on the one side, and there's the data on the other side. And the point is, with these RAGs, the search results are the data. They're the input alongside the model to the result. So if you have the best search capability, then you're going to be feeding the best data into your model, into your RAG, when people ask the question. And I think that's when I'm talking about you want to be both good at search and good at AI to really be able to solve this use case. The interface might not look like 10 blue links at all, but...
Yaniv, just define RAG for the audience again.
Oh, that's the retrieval augmented generation. Retrieval meaning search. So you're having an LLM that is effectively using search to provide better quality and more up-to-date information. That's what Perplexity does.
Right. So the idea is when you ask the LLM something, it goes to a store of knowledge, retrieves it, and it augments its answer based on that knowledge. And when you're asking it a search question, it goes to a search engine, retrieves the search results, and uses those search results to augment its response. And if your search engine that it's using is better than the other search engine, you win. Presumably, right? Because if Google's 10 blue links, and by the way, Google's not been 10 blue links for a long time. They have this incredible knowledge graph and incredible summarization and all this other stuff. I think we do them a disservice by calling them just 10 blue links. If Google's search result page or data object is better than Bing's, then Google's AI has an advantage just from that knowledge base that it's retrieving from. And as you said, Yaniv, Google's pretty bloody good at AI as well. So you marry those two things, it's like peanut butter and jelly, and Google has a real advantage here. And OpenAI is working with a disadvantage, which is Microsoft's garbage at Bing. And so we'll see how this plays out. I think it's going to be very exciting to see. But as I said, I think ultimately this is going to be a distribution game, and whoever owns the agent is really going to win.
I have one other thought on this before we move on, actually, which I think is, again, why I'm long Google. Distribution, right? Distribution is always underestimated, which is where do people go? What is the muscle memory when people have questions they want to ask, right? And again, Chris, you say you use ChatGPT first. We have to accept that, we are all technology people, technology early adopters. But Google pays Apple, was it $17 billion a year or whatever, to be the default search on iPhones. It is the default search on most Android phones. Chrome is the dominant browser in the world. Guess what the default search is on Chrome? And so I think the point is people have decades of muscle memory. Their devices prioritize Google search. And so I kind of feel Google gets to fumble the bag on this a couple of times and will still come out winning. They need to fuck up royally for a long period, which they're capable of doing. They've done that in messaging for sure, to not come out ahead here, right? Because they have all the advantages.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm alluding to, right? Which is thinking of it as a search war is, I think, the wrong level to be looking at it. I think it's an agent war, and who owns the surfaces by which the agent is invoked, and how pervasive or ubiquitous are the agents. You have Google's Assistant and all their surfaces, and you have Apple's Assistant and all their surfaces. And you have Microsoft's devices, which have all been switched to Google Search. And they'll stick, Cortana or Copilot or some other nonsense there. So you're really back to a 3-agent world, and may the best agent win.